keep bothering me?
Because I love sharing my vacation pictures with you.
I've seen the drive-thru and the campground and the rest stop and the skillet and everywhere else you went.
But wait, hold on, hold that thought. Hold on. Have you seen her?
Who is that?
You don't recognize her?
No?
She's an awesome lady. But of course you don't. That's my grandma!
How should I know that?
Because, I don't know. I really didn't know. You're not!
Then why do you ask if I know her?
Because my grandma and grandpa are amazing. Look, here they are making, oh, this is just grandma, just kidding. Here she is making her chicken and dumplings, and here she is making her soup, and here she is making fresh cinnamon rolls.
Wow, that does look pretty amazing.
Yeah, I told you. And here's grandma, she's showing us some old photos. And here's grandpa, he's showing us his old army uniform. Wait, here I am trying it on.
It looks a little big for you.
It's a lot big for me, but the stories he said were so amazing.
Yay!
You know, not every road trip ends up at a fancy hotel. Not every vacation leads you to the beach. Some of the best vacations take us to towns and places that you won't find advertised on big travel websites. Instead of taking a trip to maybe Disney World or Chicago or LA, sometimes moms and dads pack their bags and travel across country to the one place they used to call home, to Grandma's house. Now, if Grandma and Grandpa live out of town, odds are you make that trip probably at least once a year. And Grandma's house is a special place, full of memories. It's a place that you learn you're not as wild and crazy as your parents tell you you are. Because that's the place where you learn that your mom and dad were just as crazy as you are when they were kids. You know, Grandma's house is the place to see old pictures and old movies and hear stories about the way things used to be. It's a place where you hear things like, in my day, we didn't have cell phones or video games. Or in my day, we only had 3 channels on the TV and the pictures were black and white. You know, they pass stories down to you and they share things with you. You know, this is a special something that was passed down from my parents. And it probably doesn't look like much because this is an old whisk broom. Now, kids don't even know what that is now because we have vacuums of all sizes. But this was the most important piece to my dad's car because he was always busy sweeping the dirt off of the floor mats. And I don't know why, because we weren't allowed to wear our shoes in the car anyhow. But whenever you got out of the car, my dad was always busy, you know, sweeping the dirt and getting it out of his car. And so a whisk broom was like the mark of his life. And so these things, you can tell how worn it were very important. Grandma and Grandpa's house mean a lot. Well, Grandma's house is also the home to some of the best cooking in the world. You know, whether it's fried chicken or chocolate chip cookies, Grandma caters better than anyone in the world. There's not a company that caters better than Grandma. And Grandma doesn't restrict you to 1 or 2 cookies, you know, like Mom and Dad probably do. They let you go hog wild. If you're lucky, you can eat as much as you want. And Grandma's house is always education. You see, there's wisdom in all of those old stories that they tell you. Grandparents have a lifetime of experience interacting with people, dealing with problems and tragedy, and navigating through life. You know, if we're wise, we're going to go to Grandma's house with our ears wide open, because there's so much to learn from our elders. Well, grandparents are just a few of the many people that God puts in our lives to teach us wisdom. You know, grandparents and parents and teachers and coaches and neighbors and pastors and other adults can share their experiences with us, and we can learn so much from their wisdom. You know, the Bible is full of stories that show us the wisdom of the love of God. There's no doubt asking God for wisdom could have helped on the road with the Israelites that we've been studying. Let's catch up with the Israelites, and let's see how their journey has shaped up since we last saw them. Remember, our story is recorded in the Old Testament in the book of Exodus, chapter 18. Well, we have Moses, and Moses was working hard. He was a hard-working guy. Moses always had his nose to the grindstone, working hard. It had been tough convincing those Israelites that God wanted them to follow Moses from slavery to the Red Sea, through the barren desert where they grumbled even though God gave them quail and manna every day. You know, Moses was putting too much on himself as the leader of Israel, and he was wearing himself down. Remember, the number of people on this road trip was enormous. Just imagine how many arguments, how many decisions, and how many board meetings Moses had to deal with. Jethro, the father-in-law of Moses, saw what Moses was doing and saw what it was doing to Moses. And as an outsider, he offered Moses some great words of wisdom. Jethro taught Moses to delegate or to share with others the many jobs that he had to do. Jethro told Moses to find a few wise men, a few good men, to take care of the little problems so that he, Moses, could focus on the big problems. And there were lots of them. Remember, there were lots of them. What a lightning bolt idea that was! Moses found faithful men who could make decisions on their own in smaller or lesser matters so that Moses could move his attention to the big issues and also give himself a little bit of care as God had intended. Now that may not seem like much, but little nuggets of wisdom like this are dropped every day to us. Not just by Grandma and Grandpa. We can get them from teachers and coaches and preachers and neighbors, and yes, even from dear old Mom and Dad. Hard to believe. If you stop and think about it, God has blessed you with many people who can offer advice and wisdom that will help you through life. If you are truly wise, we will listen to them because God will use them to make our path straight and help us lead a better life. You know, this story could have happened at anyone's Grandma and Grandpa's house. And the advice could vary. Maybe it was Grandpa telling you to choke up on the bat so you could get a better hit and hit harder. Or maybe it was Grandma giving you that secret ingredient to her fried chicken batter. Yeah. Or maybe one of them told you about a terrible decision that taught them an important lesson in life. You know, this story that we're talking about with the Israelites, here's the interesting part of this story. Moses, he was not a young man when this story took place. Moses was at least 80 years old when this story happened. He was older than most of your grandparents, and yet, even at that wise old age, he needed the advice of someone older than him to help him do his job better. Learning wisdom doesn't end when we get to be adults. Ask any parent, and they'll tell you they depend on the wisdom of their parents, even grandparents, more now than they ever did when they were younger. You know, we always need advice. We always need wisdom. You know, thank God that He has given us so many sources of wisdom. Let's be honest. Grandma isn't everyone's first choice for a vacation, especially if you're a kid. There's more adventure to be found or to be had in Disney World, at the beach, the amusement parks, or even the big city. But the wisdom we gain from spending time with our elders will stay with us a lifetime, much longer than that t-shirt that we bought at the souvenir shop. Parents and grandparents and older adult mentors are a true gift from God. The wisdom they have to share with us help us to avoid heartache and keep us on the straight path. It's a great thing to think about. Will you pray with me? Dear God, thank you for the wise teachers that you've given us. Help us to listen when we're given good advice. Help us to have open ears, Lord, and an open heart to accept and to follow that advice. In Jesus' name, amen. You know, whether you're visiting Grandma and Grandpa or not this summer, depending on the summer, take some time to listen whenever one of your adult mentors are speaking. Learn from their wisdom like Moses did, and never stop learning. They are an endless source of wisdom that they'll serve you well way into your older days. Remember our summer road trip snapshot. God gives us wise mentors. And remember our memory verse. Into your hands I commit my life, Lord. Set me free. You are my faithful God. Don't forget that taking the wisdom from God makes our days and our meals happy meals.
And guys, we're back with some more summer road trip trivia. Now, again, how to play. Answer true or false to the following statements about today's lesson. Jethro was Moses' son. True or false? If you answered false, that is correct. Number 2. Jethro saw Moses having trouble, but he didn't say anything. True or false? If you answered false, you are correct. Number 3. Jethro advised Moses to use other wise men to help him lead his people. True or false? If you answered true, you are correct. Number 4. Jethro's advice did not help Moses one bit. True or false? If you answered false, you are correct. Number 5. God has given all of us older people we can learn from. True or false? If you answered true, you are correct. Thank you for joining us, and we'll be back next week. Same Jesus and Me time, same Jesus and Me channel. For more information on Aztec Church of the Nazarene, please visit our Facebook page and email us. God bless.